Good evening and welcome to the Audacity Podcast, where I am your host, Dawn Tillery. On tonight, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is where we have conversations and we are living life authentically, boldly, and unapologetically. Again, welcome on tonight to the Audacity Podcast. I'm excited on tonight as we're going to be having a discussion concerning fostering hope in clinical research. And we all know that clinical research is out there and it helps us in whatever area of medicine or whatever area of health you've been affected in. Clinical research is out there to give us a broader insight into what's going on. And I have my guest with me on tonight who has been in this thing for years and is going to share with us. And I want to just share a short bio of her with you on tonight. I have with me on tonight none other than Sharon Evans-Gay. She is BSN, RN, CCRC, an accomplished clinical research nurse and registered nurse with more than 20 years of healthcare experience, spanning clinical research, oncology, acute care, and cardiac pulmonary nursing. She currently serves with UNC Health's Office of Clinical Research, where she coordinates clinical trials, ensures regulatory compliance, educates patients on research participation, and collaborates with multidisciplinary teams to advance evidence-based patient care. So if you're watching on tonight, I want you to go ahead and hit that like button. I want you, if you're on YouTube, to go ahead and click like and subscribe. And I want you all with the Audacity audience to help me welcome none other than Sharon Evans-Gay to the Audacity Podcast on tonight.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to share with us on tonight. I'm excited about this conversation.
Glad.
One reason I'm excited about it before we actually get into our conversation is that many of you know that I am a breast cancer thriver survivor. That's what I refer to myself as. And even as I was diagnosed and I met with my oncologist, I would find out that, and I've shared this before, he had told me 10 years prior that they were passing away. They were dying from the actual cancer that I was diagnosed with. And that would have been 2008. And here I am in 2018. And I find out that because of clinical trials, because of clinical research, here I am today, and I'm the recipient of that. And so just with my guest that I had back a couple of weeks ago, Kimberly Nicholson, who's also a breast cancer thriver survivor, she was a part of a clinical trial. And she said, first of all, she didn't see anyone there that looked like her.
Right.
And then she wanted to be a part of it. And so tonight, that's why I wanted to talk, and I wanted to have you come on and share with us fostering hope in clinical research. But before we actually get into that, can you share with us, who is Sharon?
Well, Sharon is me. And first, I'm a mother. I'm married. I enjoy spending time with my family. I love reading. I love educating myself on new things. And that's pretty much me. I'm just a really low-key person. Just love having fun and living life to its fullest.
Awesome. That's what the Audacity is all about.
That's me.
Living life to the fullest. And so I heard you say that you love researching things.
I do. I was always an inquisitive kid growing up. I've always wanted to know, why is this happening and things like that. Me, I didn't know about research at the time. I was young.
Right.
I didn't learn into research until I was 15 years, well, maybe 10 years into nursing, and it just kind of fell in my lap. And ever since then, I've always been interested in it.
Oh, wow. So then that would have been your journey into, well, what was your journey into nursing?
Nursing, so I started from the bottom. So I started, I got my nurse assistant, and then when I got my nurse assistant 2, did my LPN, did my RN, and then between the LPN to the RN transition, it was a lady, I'll never forget, her name was Zelma, and she did clinical research for Boyce Lewis Clinic.
Oh, wow.
And I would ask her, why can't I do research? Usually RNs can only do research and things like that. But then I found out there was coordinators, like they weren't nurses, they were just, people with like bachelor degrees and things like that doing coordinating jobs. So I saw one of the ladies there, and I'm like, she can do it, I can do it. That's how I felt. And so I was transitioning out of working in cardiology, and I just wanted to try something new. So she was did a private interview with me, and she said,
Okay.
gave me a little tour about research and things like that, and what it was, what a protocol was, and what IRB meant, and things like that. And I told her, I can do this. I know I can. And it, like I said, it just fell in my lap. And in 2013, I became a coordinator as an LPN, which was
Right.
kind of very rare in that incidence. But it's gone from there, and I went back and got my RN, and then did my BSN. And I, in between that RN and BSN transition, they transitioned into another program, another sponsor, which they went to another program and got bought out pretty much. So I didn't kind of like that way. So I
Right.
went to the floor to become a floor nurse and did nursing for that. And then I was approached again later on when oncology was coming up, and
Okay.
asked if I could do research there. I was nervous about it because I'm not an oncology nurse by trade.
Right.
I love cardiology, and I did that kind of nursing. So I was kind of nervous about it. So I started that job. And you have to learn that language.
Right.
Oncology language is totally different than just regular language.
Okay.
And so that's how it happened. And they were like, well, you can do this job. And that's how I landed at UNC Health as a clinical research nurse.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But then it goes back to what you said. You've always been an inquisitive
I know.
kid, and you've
Yeah.
always asked questions,
I
and you've
did.
always loved research.
And I love reading. So that was my thing. I always wanted to know a why to it. It's like, if this is happening, why is it happening? What's the history of it? Well, how did it get from here to there?
Right.
And with research, you have to see the whys in it, and the promises it can bring.
Okay.
And that's what I like.
Awesome. So can you share with us exactly what you do?
So I am a research nurse. My job is to work with the doctor to implement a new protocol. Where we say a new protocol is a new clinical trial. All
Okay.
clinical trials are regulated. I think people get that misconstrued. They think that somebody's in the backyard just conjuring up something. That's not true.
Right.
It goes through rigorous processes before it becomes to human subjects. Which human beings we don't. You have to go through fast. I mean, like, you start off in the lab, the
Mhm.
scientists, pharmacists, whatever team it is that's trying to do this drug. It is, I think people don't realize either clinical research is not always drugs. It's
Right.
also devices, just history collecting data for people. We collect data on patients that are caretakers and things
Okay.
like that. So all that can stem into a research trial. It is
Okay.
regulated. So it's regulated by institutional review board, which is a legal aspect of it. They're the ethic
Right.
community. They make sure that we're doing it appropriately. We're not trying to do harm to patients and things like that. So that's how that is. So moving forward, I get a protocol, and the protocols can be anywhere from 60 pages to 500 pages.
Wow.
And what I call it is, I always call it the Bible of the study. So you have to follow that through to the T. I just can't go in willy-nilly and doing whatever I want to do with it. You have to follow it. It's such as the doctors. So you have like a schedule of events, and they'll tell you have to interview the patient. Not everybody qualifies for research. It have inclusion and exclusion criteria. So you have to meet all the inclusion criteria and none of the exclusions be able to consider for the study. There's labbing. You have to pass labs and things like that. It's a rigorous process to even be, because it's a safety thing
Okay.
to be in there. So certain diseases you can't, depending on the trial, you can't even enroll in.
Wow.
So that's what I do, is read protocols and help enroll them. And then of course you go interview the patients and tell them about the studies and go over that with them in great detail. And informed consents, you review that. Informed consent tells you what the trial is for, what are the risks, what are the benefits, what are the side effects, what are your responsibilities, because patients have responsibilities in trials too. I mean,
Right.
the communication is the key, because we have to make sure that they're safe.
Okay. So if I come in and, okay, well, let's say with my cancer,
Okay.
and you have a clinical trial, you all just aren't going to. I can't just say, oh, I want to be a part of the clinical trial.
You can.
I can say I want to be a part, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'll be a part of it, because there's this rigorous process that I have to go through.
Yes, that's correct. And so I have a trial now that is a blood and tissue study. You have to have a big lesion on your breast to be qualified for it. So we get a lot of breast cancer patients in there, but they're looking for the aggressive forms of it. So if they have to be at least 2.1 centimeters. So you'll get a lot of twos, and you're like, oh my God, but I can't
Right.
enroll them, because then I'm deviating against the trial. And we get deviations like that, it can build up to the doctor can get in trouble. We can have we have to write that up and have to report that to the IRB and things like that. So you have to be careful because with research you can make errors and you can get what I call fines and things like that.
Right.
Yeah. So you have to be very safe and follow the protocol and don't deviate from that.
Okay. So you share with us what a clinical trial is.
Right.
Why is clinical research so important in advancing healthcare?
So clinical research is the pathway to get drugs, devices, or anything approved. We can't, medications have to go through clinical research in order to get approvals. So that's why it's important to introduce that to our population, because if people don't volunteer in them, we can't collect the data needed to check the efficacy and the safety of the medication.
Right.
So it's different phases of research. You got phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. And people don't really understand that first you start, before we even get to a phase, it starts in the lab. Of course, lab subjects, you do tests on animals and things like that, and safety, all of that, because you're trying to figure out the safety. I don't do that part of research.
Right.
But I do once it's approved to open up to human subjects. The phase 1 is usually on healthy subjects, like healthy college students and things like that, because they don't have any disease processes. So we know the side effects are coming from this medication.
Okay.
And then but that's only on a small group of people. And usually those patients, they come in to the hospital or a small phase 1 clinic and get PK samples, which we say is blood samples, like every hour to 2 hours, because we want to see how is this breaking down in their system.
Okay.
And then you go to phase 2, and whatever the indication is, say it's for a breast cancer. The phase 2, we want to find that group of people that we're trying to get this approved for. So we'll ask maybe 100 to 200 breast cancer patients that we're looking for, like maybe if it's HER2 study for breast cancer, then we want to ask those to come in and look, because then we can see if does this drug really work with them.
Right.
If it gets past phase 2, then phase 3 will open up to a bigger population. And then phase 4 is usually we know it's going to be approved or it is approved, and then we can open it up to more, like to internationally, to everybody,
right,
to participate in it.
Okay.
And still developing the side effects and things like that from it, and the efficacy, and making sure that it does what it's supposed to do.
Okay. So what are some of the common misconceptions of clinical trials? What causes people to fear them?
I think lack of education is the biggest thing. When I'm approaching patients, first I have to tell them what research is, which is fine. That's my job.
Right.
Tell them what the side effects and things is, how important their participation is for not only them, but for the people come after them.
Right.
Somebody had to sit in the seat for you to be able to have your chemotherapy, right? So if we didn't get the volunteers for that, then we wouldn't be as far as we are now with breast cancer care in that. So that's the hard thing about it. And another thing about it is, I get a lot of, I'm not your guinea pig. That's that's a coordinator's worst nightmare, is to hear that phrase.
Right.
Like, no, you're not. And I always tell them, guinea pigs are in a lab, and you're a human being. I wouldn't put you in a lab. So
right.
they have to understand that. So educating them what research is, how research comes about, and how research can help not only you, but your kids and the ones that come after that. It's important. Clinical research is important because we don't want people dying from cancers and things like that. If we want people to volunteer so we can get better treatment plans for them.
Right.
That's the biggest thing is the guinea pig phase. But just education and letting them know, and reviewing the trials with them and going over the informed consents, sitting with them and giving them pamphlets and things like that. We have resources that they can look at, like videos and stuff that can explain it a little bit more detailed and things like that. But that's a major.
So once a person is in a clinical trial, do they have to stay in a clinical trial?
So clinical research is voluntarily.
Right.
Everything is voluntarily. You volunteer in, or you can volunteer out, depending on the type of study it is. If it's a drug that we're testing, then it's a safety way. Safety is the biggest thing. So if you come in and you say, "Hey, Sharon," and I tell my patients, you can tell me anytime, "Sharon, I don't want to see you anymore. I'm tired of this research study. I don't want to be in it." That's fine.
Right.
Respect that, because my job is not to coerce you to stay in there. I want you to stay there because you want to. I don't want you to stay there like I'm forcing you to, because that's illegal. There's a process to get out of, right? So I want to make sure you're safe. You're on this medication, and when you're in research, we track a lot. So we get your blood work, we follow up with you closely, and things like that. So we want you to safely get out of the study and come off the drug. So we'll tell you to stop the medication, come back maybe 30 days later just to see, make sure your kidneys and everything is doing like it's supposed to do and things like that. And then you can, and then we'll sign the papers and you'll come out and I won't bother you again.
Right.
About it. And then you also, like, if we already collected data, some people come out in 10 years on, well, let's say 5 years, and we collected 5 years of data.
Okay.
It's heartbreaking to say I'll ask them, can we use that data that we already have? Some of them can say no, some of them can say yes. It depends on that, but it will be heartbreaking to, invest 5 years and get good information that we can't use.
Right.
Sometimes. So,
okay.
That's the hard part for me, but.
Right.
But I'm not gonna win. I never had anybody to come out. I hope not. Don't do that, patients. Like, but yeah, that's it.
So I heard you saying earlier, like some people say, "Oh well, I'm not your guinea pig."
Right.
And so once you have explained to them what this is, how many people how hard has it been to have, people say, well, hey, I do want to be a part of this after you've given them the information, after they've gone and done their own research and had time to, pray about it, time to maybe talk to some other, the family, or even maybe some other healthcare professionals.
Right.
So how is that being once, you said, I'm not a guinea pig.
Right. Yeah.
Have you had a lot of people turn away then, or?
It's 50-50.
Okay.
It's, so usually I kind of going in, I kind of know if they're going to participate or not. It's just, I've been doing it for years.
Right.
But those that are on the fence, I really try to talk to them and just see what their fears are and things like that. I know in our culture, it's a lot of fear with clinical research because how we were treated in the past. Right. So, you have the Tuskegee Airmen and Henrietta Lacks cases and things like that. So I try to educate them about that and how, because of theirs, that's how we came up with the IRB, the regulatory people that come and make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do, the legalities of it. It's backed up by the FDA, that's a federal.
Right.
So
exactly.
It's a safety thing, and we're making sure we're doing everything we can do to keep patients safe. I always also tell them that no matter what the trial is and how it is, our number one focus is you and your well-being. If I feel like, and I'm discussing with the doctor, and I feel like maybe that you are having some serious side effects with this medicine, I will say something, and we'll have to go to the sponsors and things like that. So when a patient enrolls, they have me looking at their chart. They have their doctor looking at the chart, but also behind the scenes, you have the sponsors team of medical people looking at these charts and making sure in their labs and stuff to make sure that they're safe. They will alert us with queries to say, hey, look, let's look at this again and stuff like that. So to me, I always tell the patient they get extra care, a layer of care when we're in clinical research trials versus like if you go see your doctor and they say, hey, take this new blood pressure medicine, but come back in 6 months.
Right.
With the clinical research, you're going to come back within 30 days. I got to check your labs and things and make sure it's working in some cases. Because on the flip side, clinical research, most of the studies are double blinded. So that means I don't know if they're on the actual medication or they could be on this placebo, but we treat everybody as if they are on that. So we don't know. And that's how we collect the data, because you got to compare them to the like people. So like these are the group of people that we want. And this is what we're looking for. And we're comparing this, what kind of side effects are these people having versus the side effects of the people that's on placebo. That's just kind of a way of keeping the data. Right. I can't think of the word I want to say, but just to keep the data like it's supposed to be.
Okay. So as you were saying earlier with our people, there's a lot of fear, a lot of misconceptions. And there's been a lot of things that have happened that have just not been right.
Right. Yeah.
And so, we're not gonna jump on a clinical trial that quickly. And I get it. I understand.
Yeah, I get it.
So why is diversity in clinical research so important?
It is very important. Some medications are just geared for, so let's put it like this. If I was reading, it said in the past, most people that participated in research was almost 90% Caucasian men. So what about the women? What
Okay.
about the African American? What about the Asian? What about the Hispanics and things? So, are we really getting enough information to say this drug can be metabolized, broken down, and do what it's supposed to do in other ethnics? We
Right.
don't. So now a lot of the protocols, when you get them, they'll tell you that we want 45% Caucasian. We want at least 10% African American,
Right.
and they're going to keep that until they get that enrollment of that. So now they're learning that it is very important to broaden that. So now, because it's an ethics thing, so that's put in as a regulatory stance that says, hey, look, you're going to have to, if you want to do this clinical trial, you're going to have to make sure you have this percentage of each population enrolled,
Right.
which is a safe haven for it, because they have found out that like some cholesterol medicines in the past, that African Americans probably couldn't break them down, so we're putting them on them probably,
Right.
but that wasn't doing any benefits for them from it.
Right.
So now, now they're going to the more targeted therapy where we're checking your genes and things like that to see if you can break it down better than versus other diverse populations. So
Okay. So then you've already answered my next question was, are there certain populations who are underrepresented in clinical
it
trials?
is. It's African American community, the African American, the Asian community, the Hispanic community, and American Indian communities.
Wow.
Those are those. So Eastern North Carolina is like the high. Some rare diseases here and things like that we
Right.
want to investigate a little bit more. So when I do my trials for NASH, I get a lot of sponsors that say, hey, look, we want your location because of this, because you
Right.
have a high incidence of American Indians, you have a high incidence of African American in your communities. We want your community
Right.
to enroll. But on the flip side, it's hard to enroll our community because of they're scared.
Right.
And it's okay.
Right.
It's okay.
Right.
I'm okay if you're scared, but I want you to listen and understand and ask the questions that help you ease into it.
Right.
Clinical research is not for everybody, and I respect that.
Right.
It is
Right.
not. It's
Right.
you have a responsibility for it. You have rules and regulations to follow too
Right.
as a participant, but somehow, some way, we have to get people out of it and be more willing to it, so we can have better treatment plans later on
Right.
for our kids to come, even for us.
Right. So then the way to dispel fear is to have education.
That's it.
And then, so you're there to provide the education, but then, as you said, as a patient, we also have a responsibility,
Right.
and that's to actually do our own research,
Exactly.
ask our own questions.
Yes.
Because even as you're talking, I think about my husband when he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and everybody who knows us, they know this. He did his own research as far as whether he was. They had also spoken to him about doing active surveillance, but that wasn't something that he wanted to do.
Right.
So he did his own research as radiation versus the targeted radiation that he had when he went to Hampton, and it'll come back to me.
Okay,
So, but just thinking about that, and since he's gone through treatment and finished, it's like we found out, as you were saying earlier, the diverse piece is very important because a lot of our men, African American men, were not in those clinical trials. And so active surveillance doesn't work for our men. They actually need to pursue some type of treatment or become educated about what treatments are available, because it was majority Caucasian men who were a part of those studies.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
And as you were saying earlier, a lot of times the medicine doesn't metabolize or it doesn't do what it needs to do in us versus another race of people.
That's correct.
Okay.
And we'll learn that in clinical research. That's why we broaden it out to people overseas and across America. We want the diverse inclusion into those clinical research trials.
Right. So proton therapy. I knew it would
Yes,
come back to
okay.
me, you all. Sometimes I forget. But yeah, proton therapy. So traditional radiation versus proton radiation.
Right.
And so that's what he chose, proton radiation, because it was more targeted instead of like the radiation that I had when I breast cancer. It kind of, even though you knew the area, it still was like a broader area that actually received the treatment that didn't really need a treatment, but hey, I'm
Right.
here, y'all.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but I'm using that and I'm listening on tonight. If you're listening, you in the back of your mind, you thought, or you had a family member say, what about this clinical trial? What's going on with this clinical research? I wanted to bring awareness to it because as Sharon was saying, and she's sharing with us on tonight, um, our people, black and brown people, Asian, Indian,
Indians, yes.
other races of people, a lot of times we are not a part of the clinical research. And so it's important that all races be represented so then we'll know how each race or each person needs to be treated.
That's correct.
Hmm.
Gene therapy and ethnic background and racial backgrounds all come into play when it comes to treatment.
Okay. What are some of the barriers that keep people, and I think we kind of talked about this, from participating, and how can communities or professionals such as yourself build trust in research process?
I think transparency is the key.
Okay.
You have to be transparent when you're enrolling patients into research studies, because if something comes up into a research study, I have to tell the patient, oh, well, this happened to this patient overseas or something like that. They have the right to know that because they have to make a sound decision if they want to continue or not.
Right.
Um, so transparency is the thing. We're not going to hide anything from you guys. We can't. It's illegal too. So that's
Right.
one of the biggest things is that we provide transparency. I'm I'm always available to the patient. So once they enroll, they have my direct line and they will contact me if they have any things. But also the doctors are also involved with this. I don't do this by myself. I have a team that helps with enrolling patients into clinical research. Um, but lack of education is the biggest piece.
Right.
I mean that's the biggest piece, and I think we're trying to break those barriers. That's why UNC is trying to bring more research down to Eastern North Carolina. So that's why I came into the play
Right.
to build this research here. So not only do I do oncology research, I do cardiology, infectious disease. I've done nephrology,
Wow.
endocrinology. I've done a lot.
Right.
Device studies, which is kind of cool. Like some people don't realize even the simple things, like those I used to call, they were omnipods, but the little sensors for diabetics that they can wear on their arms.
Right. Right.
That have to go to clinical research. Anytime you're having to use anything that's going to be used on a human has to go through clinical research. So that was a clinical research trial that we did maybe 10 years ago.
Wow. And so a lot of people, because through my job, I have to take a day and get the CEUs as far as diabetes
Right.
because the class that we teach. And so the one we went to last year, they gave us those, just so that we could test them out.
Right.
And everybody's wearing them now.
Right. It is. And I think it's a great thing. I mean, just to get there, you can see it tells you what your reading is instantly. And you can wear it for a week now.
Right.
Instead of pricking your fingers and things like that. So that's a great development that got developed through clinical research trials.
And how many years ago was this?
I was on that maybe 10 years ago. I mean, it's different ones. I mean, at the
Right.
time that, of course, they spin them off and have different brands to pick it up and things like that. But it started in the clinical research trial I was a part of. Then you look at not only that, sometimes with the clinical research, you could go in and you thinking this medicine is going to help with diabetes, but then you find out it's also a weight loss.
Right.
So patients in this study was losing weight. So here's a spinoff. We can treat you for diabetes and weight loss.
Okay. So this is
You
where we
got
have our
multiple,
GLP,
yes,
the ones
yes,
from.
I was on
Okay.
that one too.
Right.
So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so those kind of things, it's kind of good to see them come to play in real life, so I can sit there like, oh, I did that. I was a
Right.
part of that,
Okay.
and to me, that's a blessing to see. I love that part.
So then that would lead me to my next
Okay,
question. What has been the most rewarding part of your work?
it's just seeing it come to light and seeing it being available to our people. And I'm not just saying our people culturally, I'm
Right.
just saying
Right.
Americans and even overseas, because some of the trials are for here and overseas. It's comes together with that. I do have one patient that I'll never forget her. When she was first diagnosed, she was stage 4 and there was no treatment for her. I mean, it's just, it's no cure.
Mhm.
We can treat you palliatively, but at the end, all we know this is going to be the cause of your death. Well, was a young lady, and she wanted to witness her child going to um, start school because she was maybe 4.5, 5.
Right.
But she enrolled in our study, and she got 7 years. She So somebody that wasn't even looking to have 6 months got 7 years was a
Wow.
blessing. So not only
Okay.
did you get to see your kid start school, start middle school, the other kid graduate, do vacations, and live a quality life. I always say I'd rather have a quality life than a quantity of life. And that's a
Right.
big difference when you say
Right.
that. You want to have a lot of good days and but you don't want to have too many bad days, right? So
Right.
you
Right.
don't you want to live a good life but not live a bad life for a long time. Does that make
Exactly.
sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
So that's the thing about it. So that person always will always come into my mind that she had hope and we gave her that hope. The clinical research gave her those years she deserved to have with her kids.
Right. Right. And so that's another question. What did it take for someone to have the audacity to choose hope, even in the uncertainty of a clinical
Yes.
trial? And you really just answered that question because she was wanting to see her where she had gotten 6 months.
Yeah, less than six
l-
6 months or less to live.
She got another seven
She got 7 years.
years.
7 years.
Right.
7 years. And then we would like to say that clinical research played a good role in that. She would say that.
Right.
She would say that. And
Wow.
I think it takes courage to
Hmm.
enroll in clinical research because, most of the time, clinical research is not here to help you per se, it's to help those who come after you. But with the treatment that she was on, it was true treatment. It was open label, so we knew she was on that treatment.
Right.
Um, I think it takes courage, selflessness, in a
Right.
sense, commitment, and a sense of hope
Hmm.
to enroll in, especially because, when you're diagnosed with something like that, you have me coming in and trying to tell you what this is about. You have the doctor telling you this is what's going on with you. Then you have the education for, the treatment to come in and tell you about that. It's a lot of information that you're getting at one time. And then you're
Right.
trying to make decisions. So, and then here I come with something new.
Hmm.
You have to have patience with those patients and understanding and learning the right time to come in and talk to them about research.
Right.
And that's a tough battle that we have. We call it recruitment. So we have to recruit patients into those studies.
Right. And I remember I was sharing with you prior to us coming on live that even while I was receiving my chemo treatment, I met a couple of patients in the Bay. And I remember one patient, he was there. There was a gentleman there. He was there with his sister, but his wife had received treatment, I think 15 to 20 years earlier. But he was sharing with me how she had gone through clinical trials and how, he had seen other people help. And she was still living. He was there with his sister because he even gave me some pointers on when I come in, what to ask the nurses for.
Right.
Because each time they had to access my port, the longer I went, my skin, the more sensitive it became. So he told me some things I could do to ask the nurse for, and I did what he told me to. And so it helped me out. But also before I left, my last treatment, there was a lady there, and she was in the midst of receiving clinical trial, and she told me, she said, I don't know, how much it'll help me, but after me, there may be some people that it'll help and they'll be able to live longer.
Right.
She shared that with me, and she was a Caucasian female. But like you said, it's important for even females and males to be a part of any type of clinical research.
It is. It is. And I also, on top of that, we're talking about breast. I think preventative is measures is the biggest key too. Early
Right,
diagnosis is the key to success of the treatments.
right,
But then if
right,
you look back ago, like decades ago, we didn't have targeted therapies and things like that for certain breast cancers. Now we
right.
do through
Yes.
clinical research. So
Hmm.
I feel like those you pay homage to those ladies and men because men get
Right,
them too that
right.
had the audacity to enroll
Well,
into clinical research to have a better opportunity or choices, right?
right,
Choices for you as far as your treatment goes. You can
right,
choose which one may work for you.
right. Um, my dad, which is your which is
Yeah.
your uncle.
Yes.
So when he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and we had shared this, it's like we found out, and it was stage 4 then, but he also was dealing with sepsis. So he had an infection, and then we find out about the cancer,
Right.
but it was pancreatic cancer. And like most recently, I've talked to, a couple of people, and I shared this with you. They were able to find out that they had pancreatic cancer, and they're receiving treatment for it.
Right.
And I'm like, Wow. It's like 15 years ago with dad, it's like, man.
Right.
And now, even though it's still, a cancer that if you don't find it in time
Right.
because of where the pancreas is located, treatment may not help, but still just to know 15 years later.
I mean, even if it's, you know, not all cancers are curable, right? But now we have the palliative treatments, right? So they
Exactly,
try and keep the cancer at bay so you can
Right.
try and live a quality life.
Right,
Just think of 15 years ago, did he have that option? I don't know.
right,
But now they do today, right?
Right.
So that's what clinical research is about.
Mhm.
It's just providing better choices and better care for those to come.
right.
It's a sense of hope. And I think that's what
Exactly.
people are not realizing. It's not to be a nuisance. It's just a sense of hope that we got to see if this works. But in order to find out if it works, we need you.
Right,
We need you to volunteer to see.
right. So, what would you say to someone who qualifies for a clinical trial, but they are afraid to participate?
I have to tap into those fears. What are you afraid of? That starts a conversation that we need to have. Like, tell me what's going on. Tell me what you need to know. What do you need from me to explain it to you more? Am I not delivering this message to you?
Mhm.
What are your fears? Are you scared of coming more time? Most people think about it as money. Clinical research is no out-of-pocket expenses.
Right.
So
Okay.
the good thing about clinical research is that the medications and things that they provide is taken care of.
Okay.
There's no out of pocket. The extra labs that we do, the extra PK samples and things that it's all covered by the sponsor of that study. Sometimes patients get compensated, in which we
Mhm.
give them expenses paid for, like for they get a little compensation for. I don't tell them what to do with them, but for
Right.
driving to the study for to provide you for a meal for that day to come. Because most of the time, research we're asking you come more frequently than you usually would go to if you go see your regular doctor.
Okay.
So those they do get some good perks about that.
Okay. So, as we're about to come to an end, is there anything else? No, well, before I ask you, is there anything else you'd like to share? If someone has questions that's watching tonight or that will listen later or watch later, they have questions for you about clinical research, even a clinical trial, how can they contact you?
I don't mind. You can have my office number. My office number is 252-962-4140. That's my direct line. Just leave a message. Also, it's a website called clinicaltrials.org. That's a website that you can go in and you can search for clinical research trials that you may be interested in or that you want for your family members and things like that. At our site, we don't have a whole lot of clinical research. We're still in the building modes of it. Unfortunately, federal funding has cut clinical research drastically. So
Right.
it's we're building back up our protocols and things like that, but it is going to take some time to get there. But pretty much you can look it up and find clinicaltrials.org is a legitimate research to find clinical trials. And you can search a state, wherever that person is, you can look into it and you can find some trials for you. Or call me, I can help find something for you.
So, is there anything else you would like to share as we get ready to close out our conversation on tonight?
I can just say have the audacity to ask the questions about clinical research. Have the audacity to look into it. Have the audacity to be open-minded about it. That's all I would have to say.
All right. So, you all heard, have the audacity to investigate clinical trials. Have the audacity to ask the questions. That's the only way you're going to find out what it is you need to know.
Right.
And so, again, on behalf of the Audacity Podcast, I want to thank you for coming on tonight and for sharing with us, giving us some valuable information that even if, for those of you that are watching, if you don't need the information, you can pass the information on to someone else who can actually use it.
Absolutely.
And so, again, thank you for tuning in on tonight. As I always end, have the audacity to make it a great day.